Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Pac Talk with me, your host, Pieter Vodden. I wanted to do a quick podcast today on a sacrifice. And by sacrifice, I don't mean any kind of religious sacrifice. I don't want you to slaughter any sheep to the fitness gods or anything like that. What I mean by it, let me give you an example. Somebody asked me today in the gym, I was training in the gym in Idlewild, and I just happened to have Pumping Iron on the TV, which I often have on the TV. And someone asked me if I was a bodybuilder. And my immediate reaction is, no, I'm not a bodybuilder. Now, to some people, it may seem like I am, or at least a version of a bodybuilder. And to some extent, of course, I am. I mean, I have bodybuilding in my program. But the reason I don't consider myself to be a bodybuilder as such is to be a bodybuilder, you have to put all your focus into bodybuilding. Your programming, your nutrition, the kind of cardiovascular effort you do, your sleep, all that stuff is tailored towards the sport of bodybuilding. You have to kind of go all in on it. It's an all-encompassing thing. My programming is too broad and too varied to claim any kind of bodybuilding status. And like I said, there is definitely bodybuilding in my program. If you guys follow my programming or if you've been to Build, you know it's definitely in there. But of course, right now I'm taking more of a hybrid approach. I'm doing multiple disciplines at the same time. Right now, I'm entered into multiple different events. So I have this Cactus the Clouds hike coming up, which is one of the toughest one-day hikes in America, going hiking from Palm Springs to Idlewild, up a mountain basically. Which requires obviously a sustained cardiovascular effort, a lot of, I would say type 2 type fitness. So endurance capacity, good lungs, good strength in strength endurance capacity in my hamstrings, glutes, etc. And, it's a sustained effort. It'll probably take, 12 to 14 hours to complete. So I need a good level of general fitness as well as some specific training of the glutes, hamstrings, lower back type stuff to deal with that kind of incline over a sustained period. So I need to make sure training for that is in my program. I'm also doing a Hyrox in November in Dallas in Texas. That is going to require some more kind of classic power endurance type training, some high intensity type training, some interval training, some circuit training, a broader range of functional, I hate that word, but functional fitness type movements. So, wall balls, sled pushes, sled pulls. I'm going to have to be complicit on the ski erg and the rower. I'm going to have to be able to operate at a relatively high heart rate throughout that whole event. The whole event will take just over an hour. So it's the ability to sustain a high heart rate over that duration for over an hour. So that's a very specific discipline. It requires specific training. So I'm going to be doing some high intensity interval training. I'm going to also be doing some longer distance running. There's 8 kilometers of running involved in it. So I want to make sure I have that volume capacity in there. So I'm building up my longer distance running. I'm doing a lot of longer runs. I'm also going to have to do some specific drills, whether it's wall ball drills, sled drills, burpee broad jump type drills, anything that's specifically movement specific in that workout. I'm going to have to practice, and then I'm going to have to put them into circuits and practice those circuits. And then eventually I'm going to have to do some simulations, going through the whole thing, or at least parts of the thing, building up the sum of the parts, basically. Drills, skills and drills. To build up that specific work capacity for that specific event. And then I'm also doing a half marathon in Austin, Texas in February. So I've got to get the mileage up for that. I've got to practice running, which of course can double up with the Hyrox. But again, it's a different discipline. The marathon training is more of a longer sustained effort at a slightly lower heart rate. Whereas although the Hyrox is a longer event, it's going to take me over an hour, and of course the half. Well, no, I should reframe that. The half marathon, of course, will probably take me an hour and 45 minutes ish. The Hyrox will take me hopefully an hour, hour and 15-ish. So the Hyrox will be slightly shorter, but definitely the heart rate will be a lot higher because the specific events in that thing are a lot more like intense. So wall balls, for example, will jack my heart rate up. The 1 kilometer sprints will jack my heart rate up. The ski erg will jack my heart rate up. The rowing will jack all the things together will lead to these kind of like spikes in my heart rate. So again, that requires a specific discipline. Whereas the half marathon is more of a consistent pace throughout. Now, maybe I have a little sprint finish at the end. Hopefully I have that in me. But broadly speaking, I'm holding a pace, a steady pace for a longer duration of time. So they require specific types of training. Now, all the time going through this, as I've mentioned in my posts and in my YouTube, that my goal is not to lose muscle. So if I was to go all in on a half marathon or all in on the Hyrox, I would honestly probably be better off doing it at 185, 190 pounds. I would do better because obviously I would be faster. It's easier to carry my body weight at a lighter weight. So I would train specifically for that, and I would purposefully lose muscle mass, purposefully lose weight in order to excel in those events. Now, I don't want to do that. I spent a lot of time putting lean muscle tissue on my body. I believe it's very important. I'm 47 years old. I'm not at the point in my life where I can afford to like lose muscle that I've taken a long time to build. I don't want to do that. I'll definitely get my body fat down, but I don't want to lose muscle. So I'm training in a very broad way, combining bodybuilding drills with strength days, with run days, with Hyrox specific days, with hiking days. All of these things are coming together in a broad and inclusive program so that I can be good at a bunch of stuff without being great at anything. Now, that may sound kind of weird, like, well, why doesn't he want to be great at something? Because to be great at any one thing is going to require a lot of sacrifice. And it's a sacrifice at this point I'm not really willing to make. Now, if I was younger and if I had my heart set on something very, very specific, like if I wanted to be a competitive Hyroxer or if I wanted to be a competitive marathon runner, God forbid, it might be worth the sacrifice. That's a calculation you have to make. What is it worth to you? It might be worth it to you. It's not worth it to me. If I wanted to win the CrossFit Games as a masters athlete, I would have to go all in on CrossFit. Again, that's kind of a broad and inclusive program. But again, you have to train specifically for that event. There is a specific weight that is optimal for that sport. There is a specific regime that is optimal for that sport. And it's going to mean sacrificing other stuff. Again, sacrifices that I'm not willing to make. It would also require, if you want to get really, really good at something, let's say I want to get really, really good at triathlon racing, there is a time component to that. It takes a lot of hours in the day to prepare for something like that. Right now, obviously, I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids. I've got 4 businesses right now. I'm a husband. Like, I just don't want to spend that much time away from my family as well as from my work. I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So it's a measure, right? It's a balancing act of all these things. Couple this with my current goal of getting better at horsemanship. I have a new coach, a new horse riding coach. Shout out to Jameson, legend. And I want to get better at that, which again is a time thing. I'm not spending too much time in that arena. I'm getting slowly better over time as opposed to intensely getting better, because again, it's a time thing. It takes a lot of time out of the day, and I just can't afford that much time. But I do want to pay attention to it. I am changing my training and my stretching routines and my mobility routines to allow that in and to get better at that. It's very different from everything else that I'm doing. So put that all together. I've got running. I've got specific Hyrox training. I've got specific strength training. I've got specific bodybuilding training. I've got specific drills that I'm doing for the horse stuff. Endurance running as well as interval running. You should put all that together and you got a lot of stuff. So it requires dedicating certain days of the week to certain disciplines, breaking up my week, breaking up my months, paying attention to all these different areas, being good at a bunch of different stuff, like I said, without being truly great at anything, so that I'm kind of where I want to be in all these different events. And again, this is something you kind of have to decide for yourself. Like, do you want to be really truly great at one thing, or does having a more broad, inclusive program suit your needs better? Like I've said before in posts in my newsletter, we know that to be healthy as we age, it requires a good amount of muscle on my body, a good VO2 max, and good mobility. I need those three things. So we always go back to mechanics, strength, conditioning. At Hyrox, there are three pillars, and we know that those three pillars are going to serve us really well as we age. So we want to make sure that we're including those things in our lives, in our routine as we age, if our goal is longevity. Longevity, longevity, longevity. Um, if our goal is to win a bodybuilding show, then we have to go all in on bodybuilding. If our goal is to run a marathon in sub 3 hours, I'm going to have to dedicate most of my time to marathon running. If I want to be the best Hyroxer in the world, I'm going to have to practice mainly Hyrox drills and doing Hyrox simulations. If I want to be the best rodeo rider in the world, all my time is going to be dedicated to rodeo. So again, you just have to look at where you are in your life, what's it worth to you, what's worth the sacrifice, and then what your week's going to look like depending on what your decisions are, and then kind of like ride it out. Obviously, rest comes into this, rest, recovery. I'm having to pay a lot more attention to that stuff again as I get older, and what I'm capable for. I have like my optimal week planned out, but sometimes I make changes depending on how I'm feeling, depending on how many times the kids woke me up last night, depending on how many times I had to let the dog out, depending on work stress. Sometimes I have to listen to my body. Sometimes I replace a run with a walk. Sometimes the intensity of my session or the length of my session maybe a little bit less depending on my energy levels. And I'll kind of pull audibles as I go. I'm trying to include as much sauna and ice bath in my schedule as I can because it truly helps with my recovery. Obviously, as you guys know, I pay a lot of attention to supplementation. I pay a lot of attention to trying to reduce inflammation. I pay a lot of attention to cognitive function and trying to stay as mentally with it as I can, trying to reduce brain fog as much as possible. So I pay a lot of attention to supplementation for that. I pay a lot of attention to sleep. I am struggling right now with sleep for some reason, even though I'm still doing my same supplementation. Honestly, it's a lot of the time it's broken up. Like I said, either the kids come in or the dog wants to go out or stuff like that. It's not. I don't think it's anything beyond that. It's just like I'm just getting a lot of broken sleep, and I do struggle to get back to sleep once I've been woken up. That's just what I've always kind of dealt with. So I'm definitely struggling with sleep a little bit, but I will tell you, and I know I've said it before, there is no better supplement for you than sleep. Like the better you sleep, the better everything is going to be. The better you're going to perform, the stronger you're going to be, the better you're going to feel, the better mood you're going to be in. Sleep just improves everything. So really pay attention to that. Go to bed at a good time. Magnesium is a fantastic supplement to help you sleep, especially magnesium glycinate. I find L-theanine, GABA. There's a bunch of good things you can take. I've talked about it before on podcasts. I really like that raw sleep supplement that we sell at the gym. It's a really good one. Got a bunch of good stuff in there. Hydration is also really important. There's no way that you can maintain a ton of volume of training in all these different areas if you're dehydrated. You'll definitely underperform in multiple areas if you are dehydrated. And of course, nutrition. Of course, calories matter. Of course, protein matters. Of course, carbohydrate matters, especially if you're doing a lot of high intensity work. Carbohydrates are going to be your main fuel for that kind of work. So, this isn't the time for a kind of calorie restricted, carbohydrate restricted diet. I'm having to pay attention to calories and making sure I'm getting enough in to support this workload. And you're going to have to too. So all these things are going to come into play. All of these things are going to contribute And all of these things are going to require a degree of sacrifice that will prohibit you excelling in any one thing, but may enable you to be good at multiple things. So again, you just have to make that decision for yourself. And again, the same goes with nutrition. We talk about it a lot with, fat loss. I can get to sub 7% body fat, but at what cost? If you've known anybody that's ever done a bodybuilding show, like I'll give you an example of Josh, who did his bodybuilding show last year. His energy levels right before the show were god awful. His brain function was god awful. Why? Because he's in such extreme caloric restriction and dehydration that his body's just not functioning well. His hormones are not functioning well. His testosterone is down because he's in such a caloric restriction. So, and he's doing that. That's the sacrifice he's making because it was worth it for his bodybuilding show. It's definitely not worth me doing that if I'm going to be good at competing in all these different events. So there's always a trade-off with all of these things. You can't be, if you think about that mixing board, that sound board, you can't have every single level turned up to 12 all of the time and expect to be great across the board. You're going to have to turn some things down and turn some things up if you're going to be optimal. All right, guys. So the subject of this was about sacrifice. I hope that was helpful to some of you guys. If you have any questions about this in terms of like how much of this should I be doing? How much of that should I be doing? How should I be feeling? How should I break up my week? How should I break up my month? I'm competing in this. What should I be doing? Always reach out. Happy to answer questions on this. Of course, programming is my thing. So always happy to answer your questions. And yeah, the great thing about Hyrox obviously is we like to provide the opportunity to do all this stuff. Like that's why we have it the way we have it. We have the class that's more biased towards strength and muscle building. We have the class that's more biased towards conditioning. We have the class that's more biased towards mobility. All of these things are put together at Hyrox so that you don't have to just do one thing. You can do all these things together. Now, again, if you want to be a specialist, then you're going to have to think about specialization. But for most of us, and broadly speaking, we're better off building a really good level of GPP, general physical preparedness, having a good amount of strength, a good amount of muscle, a good amount of conditioning, and a good amount of mobility. That is what is going to serve us best in the long run. And that's why I like to take a broad approach to fitness. Hope that was helpful, guys. Come see us at Hyrox Athletic Club, Echo Park, Idlewild, Redondo, and our new baby in Palm Springs. We just opened our new fuel bar now in Palm Springs. Coffee, shakes, food, a bunch of different supplements. Come check it out. It's awesome. I'd love to see you there. Follow us on YouTube. I've got a bunch of cool videos coming out on YouTube. Please like, please share. It really helps us grow the business. And hopefully I'll see you in the gym soon. Okay, bye now.